Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, they did it. New Yorkers finally did it. They elected a Muslim communist as the mayor of New York. And so, on January 1st at 12:01 a.m., Zohran Mamdani will now be sworn in as the next mayor of New York City, the largest city in the United States, the financial capital of the United States, and one of the most prominent, influential cities in the entire world. And let's not sugarcoat this. Make no mistake about it. This is a massive victory. It is a massive victory for the Democrats. It is a massive victory for the radical left. It is a massive victory for Antifa, and it is a massive victory for Islam. And what the media is not reporting on is that across the Middle East, in Pakistan, in Uganda, where he's originally from, where he was born, across North Africa, Muslims everywhere are now celebrating a huge victory, not just for Islam, not just for radical Islam, but a victory against the United States of America. And it wasn't even close. Mamdani won with a majority. 50.4% of the vote. He won a good majority. 41% went to Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa barely got over 7%. So, to be fair, he has a mandate. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. New Yorkers voted for communism, and now they're going to get it good and hard. And when you look at the election results, it wasn't just in New York City. It was a big night for Democrats, for the far left, for progressives in New Jersey, in Virginia, and everywhere else there were elections held. Take, for example, what happened in New Jersey. Contrary to what Fox News was saying for weeks now, that this was going to be right down to the wire, neck and neck, anybody's race. The hardcore anti-Trump leftist, Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat, crushed Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican. It wasn't even close, 56-43. In fact, almost 57 to 43%. In Virginia, the results, frankly, are even more stunning and in some ways even more disturbing. And even more disturbing in some ways than the results in New York City. And you would say, well, why, Jeff? What can be worse than electing a Ugandan communist? Because in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who is a deep state operative, she's a former CIA operative, a radical far leftist herself, crushed the Republican Winsome Earl Sears. It wasn't even close, 57-43%. Even though Abigail Spanberger refused to condemn, hell, she refused to even criticize or speak out against the Democrat nominee for Attorney General, Jay Jones, who, as we talked about it on this show, who in text messages, not once, not twice, but repeatedly admitted that he fantasizes and openly calls for the mass murder of Republicans and their children. And yet Abigail Spanberger refused to condemn it. And not only did she refuse to condemn it, she was still elected by most Democrats who polls show had no problem with Jay Jones. How do we know this? Because unbelievably, he won the race to be the next Attorney General of Virginia. And even that one, closer, but still comfortably winning, 53, almost 54% to 46% for the incumbent Republican, Jason Minoris. And so I want you to stand back and think about now what the Democrats have done. They have now elected a hardcore anti-Trump leftist in New Jersey. They have now elected an Islamo-communist as the next mayor of New York, who, by the way, in his speech, acceptance speech yesterday, his victory speech, openly declared war on Trump and told everyone in New York, La Revolution, the socialist communist revolution is coming. He's not backing down an inch. His supporters, in fact, they were outside in Brooklyn. They were in Times Square when news broke about 40 minutes after polls closed that he was now the declared winner. They were in sheer ecstasy. They popped champagne corks. They were dancing on the streets. These are young, many of them Antifa supporters, Black Lives Matter, young socialists, Democratic Socialists of America. This is the AOC Bernie Sanders army. And combining that vote with the massive third world migrants that Joe Biden allowed in, created what Mamdani called the black-brown coalition, which he says will, quote unquote, conquer white supremacy. And who does he mean by white supremacy? Whites. Jews, obviously, but generally working middle-class whites. He's now essentially declaring war on white people and will drive them from New York City. Now, Jay Jones won his race in Virginia. This is the man who openly called for the mass murder of Republicans and, of course, murdering their children. And yet still, Democrats voted for him to become the next Attorney General of the state of Virginia, with the full support of the incoming governor and the incoming lieutenant governor. I don't know I don't know what else to tell you. You call for, you fantasize about the homicide, about murdering, killing, executing, 2 bullets to the head, as Jay Jones put it, your political rivals and your political opponents. And not only do you not get punished for it, you get rewarded for it. This is now the Democratic Party. And so, let me say this very clearly so that we all understand what is happening now in the United States. Zohran Mamdani signifies the downfall of New York. As I always do a video before, I come in and do the show, we post it up on X and on social media. And as I said on my social media video, and I'm going to say it now, to those of you who live in New York City, get out. I'm telling you now, get out. Get out while you still can. Because crime is going to explode. He is going to defund the police. He is going to dismantle law enforcement. He is going to abolish prisons. He is going to allow criminals to run wild in the streets in the name of social justice. He is going to bankrupt New York City with billions and billions and billions of entitlement spending that literally the city cannot afford. He is going to eat the rich, as he said himself. He wants to chase the wealthy businesses, investors out of New York. The jobs are going to flee. The tax base is going to flee. Middle-class taxpayers are going to leave. And he's, by the way, just a day before the election, he told President Trump, I will fight to the death to keep New York not just a sanctuary city, but literally, his words, quote unquote, a permanent sanctuary city, in which, as he put it, I want to have millions and millions of my brothers and sisters come into New York City, calling for third world migrants, third world Muslim migrants to flood New York and transform it into a Muslim Islamic city the way Sadiq Khan did in London. Now, this is not hyperbole. These are the facts. This is what he's promising. In fact, he is pro-Hamas, pro-Sharia law. He is a Jew hater and anti-Semite to his fundamental core. And now he has warned Trump, as he did last night in his victory speech, I dare you to send ICE. I dare you to send the Border Patrol. We are going to chase you out of New York. So let's not sugarcoat this. The victory of Mamdani means the triumph of the Bernie Sanders AOC wing of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party now has been supplanted, hijacked, transformed.
Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
That, of course, was Qami Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani, celebrating, there's no question, his meteoric rise. And now he will be the next mayor of New York and really the capture now of the radical left of the Democratic Party. This is now a communist party, a leftist party, an Islamist party, frankly, in many ways now an anti-Semitic, anti-American party. And the question now is, will the Democrats become emboldened by Mamdani's victory, by their victory in Virginia, by their victory in New Jersey, to get even more radical and to push more radical candidates across the entire country? AOC now is telling Schumer it looks like she will challenge him for a primary. This is now the scuttlebutt coming out of Washington, that Schumer's political days are numbered, that she now wants to become the next senator from New York. AOC now is telling everybody it's our party. With the victory of Mamdani, join the train or get out of the way. And so communism is on the rise. What do Republicans and Trump in particular now need to do to combat it? And let me ask all of you a second question, and I'm going to go right to the phone lines. The media, especially the anti-Trump media, are portraying last night's election results in Virginia, in New Jersey, in New York City. Now remember, New Jersey is a blue state. Virginia is a blue state. New York City is an ultra blue city. It's either the far left or the crazy Mamdani communist left. That's really what the race came down to. So, is this really a mandate for change? Or did the Democrats just hold serve? In other words, the blue states, progressives dominated in the blue states. They're supposed to dominate in the blue states. That's where their crazy voters are. Or was this a rebuke of Donald Trump? Because this is how the media is portraying it. That this is a sign of what is to come in the midterms. That the Democrats are energized, they are mobilized, that they now see this as a bellwether for next year's midterm elections, and that Trump now is on the ropes. They believe he's underwater when it comes on the economy, on inflation, on the popularity of his mass deportations. They believe now this is the beginning of the end of the Trump presidency. Do you agree? 617-266-6868. Now, let me just give you one important fact, and then I want to start taking calls. Exit polls showed overwhelmingly the number one reason over 90% of Democrats voted for Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat winner, for governor of New Jersey, and for Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat winner in Virginia, was to send a message to Trump. In other words, we want the most anti-Trump candidate to be our leader. In fact, Abigail Spanberger, who's the incoming governor now for Virginia, actually said she is so anti-Trump, not only will she not cooperate with him on immigration or deportations, but she said even when it comes to jobs, even if it means sacrificing jobs, she refuses to cooperate with Trump. And the voters blessed it. At least the Democrats who voted for her blessed it. Is this now a bad omen for Trump and the country? Or is this simply the Democrats winning races they should be winning? Susie in Bedford, you're going to kick us off, Susie. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Kuhner Country. So as far as Virginia is, let's just say they need to learn their lesson. We're going to not even really worry about that right now. The biggest problem is the New York Mandami election win that's beyond repulsive. We, the people, cannot federally, financially bail New York out in the future, period, because that day is coming. And we, the people, must pull all federal law enforcement out for their own well-being right now, for their safety right now. New York has voted against them. New York does not want them there. We cannot save New York anymore. We, the people, must fortify all willing states in order to protect against the crime that is coming to them, because eventually the crime will not be able to even sustain New York. It will have to branch out to other states. And this is the time for us to stand up and say no more, because New York is a lost cause. The Quran and Sharia law are in direct violation of the United States of America Constitution. We are a constitutional republic. We must hold the line. We must defend our constitutional republic. The people of New York made this decision. Now they can lament in it. Now they can go and suffer in it. But we have to fortify the remaining states. Now, Virginia, I think we can pull that one and save that one. New Jersey, I don't know what to say about New Jersey. I have no idea.
Well, look, Susie, you're making, as usual, very good points. You know, you always make very good points every time you call in. Look, I think we have to confront two facts. We have a party now. Remember, it's not just Virginia Democrats who supported Jay Jones. It's the entire national leadership, including, by the way, the media. He is a poster child for the assassination culture. And they voted for him and supported him after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and after 2 attempted assassinations on Trump. So you have to understand now, the Democrats are voting for candidates that openly fantasize and call for the mass murder of conservatives and Republicans, including their children. In fact, honestly, as Jay Jones put it, kill them in their arms of their mother. Shockwaves sent across the entire country last night. Zoran Mamdani, the Ugandan communist, has now won. He is going to be the next mayor of New York City. But it wasn't just that. The Democrats, literally, they ran the table. Whether it's New Jersey, they won handily. In Virginia, it was Abigail Spanberger who won as the governor. The first Muslim lieutenant governor now of Virginia was elected as well. And the attorney general, Jay Jones. Yes, that Jay Jones, who fantasized about killing his opponents. He was rewarded by winning 53% of the vote. He will now be the next attorney general of Virginia. So there is no question now. Radicalism is in the air. Violence is in the air. Now the Democrats have to ask, Do they want to make their entire national party a Mamdani party? And so I'm going to ask all of you the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Which is the next city that will fall to communism? New York has fallen. Boston, so that everybody knows, has fallen. In fact, unlike New York, it was uncontested. Michelle Wu got another term on an explicitly Marxist socialist ticket. And there wasn't even a challenger. So, New York has fallen. Boston has now fallen. The question now is, which is the next city that you believe will fall? A, Los Angeles. B, Chicago. C, Portland. Or D, does it end and stay in New York/Boston? In other words, that's it. This is their high water mark. It's not going to spread anymore. So A, LA, B, Chicago, C, Portland, D, that's it. They had their victories, and now they're going to start to retreat. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report. Again, at the Kuhner Report. It's all one word, KUHNER. My vote would be LA. I think it's inevitable. And I think Chicago and Portland are going to follow LA very quickly. And I think you're looking at Minneapolis. I think you're looking at Seattle. I think you're going to look at other cities, maybe Milwaukee. I think you're going to start to see now other cities, Detroit. Other cities now are going to follow suit. And you're going to see the country now divide, very similar to what happened before the Civil War. I hope there is no Civil War, but I'm talking about deep fundamental divisions. And I think the majority of the country is going to go with Donald Trump and MAGA, and a minority rump, a confederacy of blue states and blue cities, a communist confederacy will emerge, led by Bernie, Mamdani, and AOC. And very similar again to, remember, it was just under a dozen states that eventually seceded from the Union. It was a militant minority that broke the Union apart. Well, I'm not saying they're going to break the Union apart. I hope they don't. But that's what you're going to see now. A fundamental fissure, a fracture in the country between the majority, conservative, patriotic, MAGA, and now a militant Islamo-communist rump, especially in these big blue cities. Agree, disagree? Who do you want me to go to next? Maestro Mike. Larry in Arkansas. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. So let me ask a question. So now that they got what they wanted, are they going to reopen the country now, the government?
Well, Larry, I don't know if you heard Ted Cruz, but his theory, and he said he heard this from other Democrats, was that they deliberately shut down the government. It was for political reasons to juice up their support for the election. And I think it paid off in Virginia. There's a lot of government workers that live in Northern Virginia. And so the theory is that, no, they just shut the country down to galvanize their base, enrage, anger their base, so they would come out in massive record numbers, which, by the way, they did. Record turnout in Virginia, record turnout in New Jersey. Not record, but they haven't had a turnout like this in New York City since 1969. So what is that, 50 years, 55 years, whatever the math is? So that this was deliberate. And Cruz says, you watch, by Wednesday or Thursday, they're going to reopen the government. In other words, they gave AOC and the radical left their victories. They showed them we're willing to fight. And now we can just, pass a clean CR and prevent planes from falling out of the sky. So Cruz is predicting they will reopen in a day or two. This is just Ted Cruz. So take it for what it's worth, Larry. So we shall see.
So they just proved that they're racist because they would not vote for the black governor, lieutenant governor for Winsome Sears for Virginia. Because remember, it's all about racism. Everything's about racism. But Obama had to go and pump up the white woman. How's that working out?
Well, Larry, look, you make a very interesting point. And this is, I think, something we need to sort of chew on. I don't know if there's an answer right now. I'd love to get your take, and I'd love to get the audience's take. If you look now at the demographics, so why? Why did Spanberger win in Virginia? Okay, the white woman. Why did Mikey Sherrill, the white woman, win in New Jersey? Who was a big bloc supporting Mamdani? Big bloc. It was college-educated, white, liberal women. And when asked, and I mean the gender gap has never been bigger. For example, in Virginia, I think it was 24 points, the difference between men and women. So men were, whatever, white men, black men, it doesn't matter, were more than willing to vote for the black woman, Winsome Sears. And same thing with Jack Ciattarelli in New Jersey. So by 20 points, 24 points, they voted for the Democrat. And when asked why, why are you voting for this specific candidate? They gave 3 reasons, Larry. Number one, and it was number one for all of them, to send a message to Trump, to be anti-Trump, resistance against Trump. Number 2, listen to this. They want the deportations of illegal aliens to stop. All of them. They don't want murderers deported. They don't want rapists. They don't want gangbangers. They don't want drug dealers, child traffickers. They want all the deportations to stop. And number 3, and this is the one that blows my mind, they want transgenderism for kids. Whether it's their kids or their neighbor's kids or a family member's kids. But they go, there's got to be sex change operations for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. That was issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. Now, we got a problem. Because A, they're a massive voting bloc, and I'm telling you, they're crazy. They're unhinged. I'm sorry, they're nuts. This is, they didn't say the economy. They didn't say crime. They didn't say inflation. They didn't, what you would think, as a normal person. No. No, hey, if they're not lopping off those private parts and giving them, puberty blockers, I can't live in this country. No. If you're deporting MS-13 in Tren de Aragua, that's racist. And of course, you have to be against Trump, to be against Trump, to be against Trump. They're not going anywhere. These people are going to be voting for another 20, 25 years. These are people that were so indoctrinated while they were in college and universities that look at them. They're practically insane. And I don't know how we as conservatives, Trump supporters, Republicans, whatever you want to call us, I don't know how you deal with this massive bloc. What do you do? Larry, final word to you.
Well, what's interesting, Jeff, is think about all these old school Democrats that just voted themselves out of a job.
Well, that's the other thing now. You're seeing, you can go to Cuomo, but you can give, Schumer. Schumer's next now. His head is next in the political guillotine, to use the French Revolution analogy. They are eating their own. And the radical left is now eating the establishment Democratic Party. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I can play you the cut. I don't want to waste your time. So just please trust me on this. It's been widely reported. Andrew Cuomo yesterday, before the election results came in, held one of his last press conferences before he went to vote, and obviously many New Yorkers went to vote. And he openly said, this is a civil war in the Democratic Party. He calls himself a moderate. I don't believe Cuomo is or was a moderate, but let that go. What he said was that the moderate, business-friendly wing of the Democratic Party, the establishment Democrats, are now under siege, as Cuomo put it, from the radical socialists. His words, not mine. And that this is going to be a defining race, one of the most important elections, not just of his career, but in the history of New York. And he was warning, last warning, before they actually, as many were still not going to the polls. It was early in the morning where he held this press conference. And he said, don't pull the lever from Mamdani. You're going to unleash a bloodbath in the Democratic Party, a political bloodbath. You are going to see a civil war erupt, and you are going to give the upper hand to the communists and to the socialists. And so AOC deliberately, along with Bernie, I got to give them their due, chose Mamdani from the beginning. They groomed him. Obama worked with him from behind the scenes. Apparently, there's been a lot of money coming in from Pakistan, Pakistan, as Obama likes to call it. There's a lot of Muslim money behind him, Pakistani money, Muslim Brotherhood money also poured in. And the big one was George Soros. Soros poured in literally nearly $14 million. So Mamdani, the so-called working class populist, the working, the man for the working guy, is owned by the Muslims, and he's owned by a billionaire, a far-left globalist billionaire. He is essentially now their puppet. And AOC bragged that she was going to break the Cuomo political dynasty the way she's now. By the way, Nancy Pelosi looks like she's going to retire. AOC said she was going to chase Pelosi out of the party. And now they have their sights set on Chuck Schumer. Schumer did not endorse Mamdani. In fact, he refused to say who he voted for, meaning, i.e., he probably voted for Cuomo. So he's now next. They now believe they are going to defeat and knock off every establishment Democrat that stands in their way. Listen now to Mamdani in his victory speech. He couldn't help but gloat and dance on Andrew Cuomo's political grave. Roll cut 5A, Mike.
I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that.
Socialism, communism, it's coming. And they love it. The crowd was jubilant, ecstatic. I mean, it honestly, look, you want my brutally honest response to this, like I'm in the confessional? It reminded me so much of film footage that I saw when Fidel Castro entered Havana. Okay? Havana, Cuba. After the overthrow of Batista. It had that revolutionary fervor, that hammer and sickle fervor. We're going to create a utopia now. No, this time, after 100 attempts, we're going to make communism work in New York. New York City will be different from every other place on earth. And so this is now what they have voted to install in Gracie Mansion. Mamdani and his Muslim wife will both be now living in Gracie Mansion starting January 1st. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to read this. This is from Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent out in Pittsburgh. And he sent this to me on Messenger. It's a picture with a split screen. At the top, it says New York City. On the left are the Twin Towers burning. And underneath, it says 2001, never forget. On the right side of the screen, there's a picture of a smiling, grinning Zoran Mamdani. And on his forehead, in smaller letters, it's written, New York's third plane. Mamdani Airlines. And underneath, it says, 2025, we forgot. And I think this beautifully sums up the election last night. And as Dave wrote underneath to me, and I'm going to leave out the swear words, Jeff, it still amazes me as to how blanking stupid people can be, especially on the far communist left. And then he goes on to say, Jeff, let's say it as it is. The Democrat Party is now a full-blown communist party. It is no more the Democrat Party. The American political landscape has changed. Last night, the Democrats crossed the Rubicon. I agree. It's whether you agree or disagree, and you know me, I vehemently disagree with every fiber in my being. Last night was one of the most historic elections in American history. We are watching now the decline and fall of New York in front of our eyes, and we are now watching the Democratic Party morph into a full-blown communist, even communist Islamist party. 617-266-6868 is the number. William made a very good point. One last thing, I want to go to the phone lines about some of the statistics now, the data that's coming in from the election. And he points out about Virginia. He said, Jeff, you're right. It's not just so many of these college-educated white liberal women who went overwhelmingly for Abigail Spanberger in Virginia and Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, and of course Mamdani in New York. Jeff, the statistics in Virginia showed 80% of blacks, male, female, it doesn't matter, voted for the white woman, i.e. Spanberger. They did not vote for the black woman, the black Republican, Winsome Sears. So, where's how come where's Black Lives Matter when you need them? How come what? Her black life, that doesn't matter? So the color of her skin, no, that doesn't count anymore? I don't know what to say. They now vote for people who call for mass murder. If you basically now as a Democrat, you can literally say anything, and nothing, they will still vote for you. Nothing is beyond the pale. You can literally call for the murder of children in the arms of your political opponents, and you still get elected. So I don't know where we go from here. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. So, you can call for the raping of kids, the molesting of kids. It doesn't matter. If you have a D, they're going to vote for it. Eric, my fellow paisan in Rentham. Thanks for holding, Eric, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Very good. Well, I am just happy I don't live in New York City. That's all I got to say. Holy mackerel.
You and me both. But I was going to say, I think the next state that's going to fall is Michigan. Because look at Dearborn; it's already filled with Muslims, and they're already having all those issues out there with them. I don't know if in Michigan, I don't know if that's a city or what, but that would be my next guess.
Well, yeah. Well, look, what surprised me, Eric, is, I knew Biden opened the borders. I mean, that was obvious. And I knew he brought in millions and millions and millions. But I didn't realize, and this was all Obama. Okay, forget Biden is the name on the paper. It's really Obama who's pulling all the strings. How strategic, how calculated it was that they brought in so many of these third world migrants, but especially Muslim migrants. And they went for New York. They went for Chicago. They went for Portland. They went for Boston. They went for, I mean, you name it. You can run down the list. LA. In other words, they said, we're going to target, it's like they had 8 to 10 cities. And they said, we're going to flood the zone. And we're going to flood it. And then we're going to run these very far left communists, Marxists, these radical left Marxists. And this is how we're going to completely change the Democratic Party. You see, we were thinking they're trying to change the country, which they are. But we were thinking almost it's almost like we thought we almost outsmarted ourselves. We were thinking 2-3 steps down the road. They were thinking one step and then the next step and then the next step. And so we were thinking, oh, they want to destroy America, which is true. But they were thinking, first we capture the Democratic Party by importing all of these voters. Once we have the Democratic Party and we wipe out the establishment, then we go for the country. And I got to say, it paid off. I mean, it paid off. The foreign-born population. Look, I'm going to play a cut later. And, again, Mamdani explicitly calls them out. From Yemen. He said, he goes, this was my base. And he starts thanking them, the Ethiopians, the Yemenis, he's just running down third world country after third world country. And look, the New York Post and the New York Times, when they were covering the race, said he hit the Indian community hard, the Pakistani community hard, the Somali community, the Ethiopian community, the Arab community. And they go, what's changed is that they've gotten so big in New York. Vast concentrations of people, mostly let in under Biden. By the way, massive Afghan population. He hit them hard. So Cuomo went for the traditional Democrat voters. He got the unions, just to give you an example. Yeah, the unions went for him. So we got the union endorsements and all that sort of stuff that, a Dem will traditionally do. And Mamdani, coached by Obama and by Bernie and AOC, just outflanked them. It's like a military campaign. Cuomo fought a traditional war. This guy fought a new guerrilla war. And he knew and that's where all the numbers were now. And so, honestly, Eric, I did not foresee that. And especially how many Muslims were brought in. Because, you think the Mexican border. So, and there were a lot of people from Central America, Latin America who were brought in. Don't get me wrong. But, most people thought, well, it's overwhelmingly Central and Latin Americans. And there were stories about some Russians and some Ukrainians and stuff. Oh, man, they brought in an army of Muslims. And an army of third world people. And I mean from Africa, from Asia. And they brought him in massive numbers. I had no idea. How many Pakistanis they brought in? I had no idea. I had no idea. How many Ethiopians they brought in? There's almost as many Ethiopians in New York as there is in Ethiopia. And Mamdani just feasted on these voters. And that's why I kept saying, I said, there's something wrong because he's getting pounded in the media. Like, to be fair, Eric, Bloomberg hit him. CNBC hit him. Frankly, even many pundits on CNN hit him. More of these traditional Democrats. The New York Times hit him. Many in the New York Times are saying, whoa, this guy's a revolutionary flamethrower. Like, whoa, hey, this guy's a Marxist firebrand. Like, whoa. Trump is going to go to town on Mamdani in the midterms. Whoa, slow it down. This guy's too extreme, too radical, too fast. Whoa. Nothing. It didn't make a dent in his numbers. Because his people don't watch the media. His people don't read newspapers. His people don't give a damn what opinion makers say. In fact, most of them don't even speak English. So it's just to us. It's like, la, 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 la. It's all. It's just gibberish coming out of our mouth. He went to them, and whether it was speaking in Spanish or speaking in Arabic or speaking in Pakistani or speaking in Indian, he comes in and he talks to them in their language. And all he did was promise them free stuff. He promised them the moon. And they gave Mamdani the moon. They gave him Gracie Mansion. And to show you what a political shock this is, and I'm going to come right back to you, Eric, but I want everybody, just stand back for a second, okay? If you and I could go in a time machine, and I'm not saying we go back 50 years or 100 years or 200 years. We just go back 24 years. On September 12, 2001, one day after 9/11, if you and I could be transported to downtown New York and we see a police officer, remember how much law enforcement there was at Ground Zero? And we'd say to him, in 24 years, just in 24 short years, you guys in New York are going to elect a Muslim from Uganda who's a communist, who hates the police, hates you guys, who is a Jew-hating anti-Semite, who openly sympathizes with terrorists. And here's the shocking part. The people that voted for him are not even going to be the children of those that lie in the rubble right now. It's not going to be the children of the 3,000 dead Americans. No. It's going to be the children of the men who slammed the planes into the towers. It's going to be from their countries, their peoples, their cultures. And they are going to run this city to the point that I'm telling you, you're going to have a Muslim at the 25th anniversary who hates this country and sides with the terrorists when you commemorate the 25th anniversary of 9/11. Now, what do you think he would say to you? Rightly. He'd say, I'm telling you what he would say. You're effing crazy, man. He would say, get the F out of here. Lay off the drugs. That's what he would say. Listen, buddy, get help, go to rehab, stay off the freaking drugs because it's fried your brain. Right? Let's be honest. How did we all think on September 12th, September 13th, September 14th? If I went on the air and said that, what would you say? Turn the dial, never listen to him again. Kuhner's lost his mind. He's lost his marbles. Wee you. Well, here we are. You can transform a society like this, in 2 decades, if you open up the borders. You open up the borders, you can destroy a country and a society in 20 years. That's what the Democrats, that's what Obama and Biden have now shown us. And now, Eric, we have to live with the wreckage. We have to live now with the consequences of what they've created. And so my question to you, Eric, literally, I want to give you the final word. What do you think the Republicans and Trump need to do? Can we stop this communist juggernaut, or is it too late?
Oh no, it can be stopped. But what has to happen is Trump needs to dump Pam Bondi, and he needs to get again. I keep hopping on this. Somebody like Gates in the AG office, and he needs to listen to Stephen Miller, and they need to start invoking these insurrection acts and start arresting these blue state mayors and start deporting all these bums. That's what they got to do, and they got to do it fast, and they got to do it swift. They got to stop playing around with this deportation stuff and start taking it right to the streets. That's what the whole problem is.
You know, I agree with you, Eric. This should be a wake-up call for all Republicans and for the Trump administration and, frankly, for the president. Like, look now. Look at these are dangerous Democrats now that are rising to power. You got to cut this off at the pass because this could get ugly and very dangerous very fast. And he's got a limited window. He's got to act now before the midterms. Because if they seize power in Congress, all bets are off. Eric, thank you so much for that call as always. Phil, another fellow Paisan. Look at this. It's Paisan Day for the Kuhner man. Phil in Foxborough. Thanks for holding, Phil, and welcome.
Now you got me curious. How do you know I'm Paisan?
Paisan is an expression. Fellow villager? I didn't know you're Italian.
Well, actually, I am FBI, full-blooded Italian.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
No. I meant Paisan because I live in that neck of the woods, right? So you're a fellow villager. That's what I mean by Paisan.
Hello, neighbor. Appreciate your show. I miss it when you're not there.
Thank you, Phil.
I voted for President Trump, and 95% pleased with everything that his administration, what he's doing. He's just been magnificent. The only thing would criticize would be I think ICE needs to be more selective as to who they're going after. I'm all in favor of going after the gangbangers, the criminals, those that are causing mischief. But when they start invading meat packing or going into fields, agricultural fields, to pick up people that are hardworking, that aren't dealing drugs or fentanyl and all. I mean, I think that's where, listen, I'm 100% happy the border is shut down. There's no question about it. But now,
Phil, do me a favor, my fellow Paisan. Can you just hang on? I want you to complete your thought. Phil is saying, and I hear where you're coming from, escape from New York, baby. Get out while you can. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to Phil in Foxborough, but before we do, it's 7:20-ish Wednesday. You know what that means. Truth or troll. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from President Trump during his interview with 60 Minutes when he is asked by Norah O'Donnell about what he thinks about Zoran Mamdani being described as a left-wing version of himself.
Zoran Mamdani, 34-year-old Democratic socialist. He's the
communist, not socialist. Communist. He's far worse than a socialist.
Some people have compared him to a left-wing version of you, charismatic, breaking the old rules. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I'm a much better-looking person than him, right?
That was an interesting answer. I mean, I guess the question is, do you think he's telling the truth or just trolling, whether he thinks he's a better-looking person or not? I found the most interesting thing is he really didn't answer it. You're like, does he agree? Is he?
But it's classic Trump. Mike, I got to ask you, my friend, do you think he's trolling or do you think he's serious? That's the thing with Trump. He's like kind of half trolling, half. I'm sure he thinks he's much better looking than Mamdani.
Oh, he definitely does.
The question is he serious? You know what I mean? So let me ask all of you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. Is Trump, when he says he's better looking than Zoran Mamdani? It's truth or troll. Is he telling the truth? Like he's really serious? Like, yeah, I'm better looking. Don't compare me to this guy. Or is he, again, just trolling, tweaking, jabbing, making fun, getting under the moonbat's skin like he loves to do? A, truth, B, troll. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. As always, you can vote via X as well. At the Kuhner Report is my handle. At the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhner. All right, before we go right back to my fellow paisan, Phil in Foxborough, Alan on Messenger, and I think it sums it up beautifully, sent me the movie poster. Mike, can you check this for me? I think it was it the late 70s or the early 80s when the movie Escape from New York came out, starring Kurt Russell. I remember seeing it when I was young. I loved the movie when I was young. I mean, I haven't seen it in like over 45 years or whatever. But I remember enjoying it when I was young. But it's it's like the poster of the movie, and you see the Statue of Liberty, the head on the street, and there's like zombies everywhere, and it's Kurt Russell. He's pulling out a woman and a 1981. All right, 1981. And there's a guy, he's got one arm around a guy's shoulder trying to carry him to safety, and a woman who's running behind him in a very short skirt, I may add. That's when Hollywood used sex to sell movies, unlike today, because they don't care in selling movies. But let that go. It's all woke. It's all this woke garbage. But anyway, and so he's holding her hand. Anyway, Escape from New York. And on top of it, it says coming soon. January 1st, the moment this guy's sworn in. Oh, everybody's going to be there, like that Kurt Russell character. Everybody's running out of New York. Okay, let's go right back to Phil in Foxborough. Phil, you made an interesting point. You're saying, look, Jeff, of course I want to secure the border. Of course I want to end sanctuary cities. Of course I want gangbangers and murderers and rapists and violent criminals arrested and deported. But when Trump starts going into meatpacking plants or on farms and he starts deporting not the violent criminals, but just illegals, many of whom are working hard, doing jobs, that's where he starts to lose you. And I think you were trying to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, he may be now losing a lot of Americans as well. Please, Phil, A, is it accurate? Did I sum up your position accurately? And B, please, I want you to pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I think you summed it up very correctly, is the way I feel. And I think, the independent voter is really what is going to swing a lot of these elections. And I think that we need to approach deportation more with a scalpel than a hatchet. May I've also just transitioned over to this Mondani situation. I think that the Trump administration needs to learn something from this victory. I think New York's going to pay dearly for their decision, but I think it's an economic decision that most people are made. These young people they're still living with their parents, they can't get it. They can't buy a house. They barely can afford an apartment. The rent's going up and up. I mean, society is becoming more and more unaffordable, and so a lot of these young people, even my own children, one who went to Boston University, I came out more liberal than I ever brought him up, but they're just so opposed to, in a way, capitalism, because they think they're blaming all of this on capitalism. And I think it's obviously misguided, but the fact that when these young people can't save up enough money, they're barely making enough to to survive. Insurance, everything. You turn around, medical care, everything is just through the roof. And I think that it's just an act. I feel sorry for those young people. I mean, fortunately, I'm, an older person, and I've been able to, I grew up in a time when the economy was doing well, and I did well in my business. But I just feel for a lot of these young people that are struggling.
No, look, Phil, I think you've put your finger really on the pulse of the issue. Again, to give the devil his due, Mamdani, unlike Cuomo and even unlike Sliwa, was laser focused on affordability. That the cost of living is just too high. You want to go out to eat in New York? Too expensive. You want to rent an apartment? Too expensive. You want to buy a home? Forget about it. It's way out of your reach. Groceries, too expensive. Energy, everything. Taking the bus is too expensive. Taking a cab is too expensive. And so he focused on that. And so he beat that issue like a drum. And that was the number one issue on voters' minds. That Cuomo didn't pick up on it is, to me, unbelievable. That Sliwa didn't pick up on it, to me, is unforgivable. And the problem is, it's his solutions. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to Mamdani, where he openly talks about Eugene Debs, who was the first socialist to ever run for president of the United States. This was over 100 years ago. And by the way, Eugene Debs ended up being an admirer of the Soviet Union, Lenin, and the Bolshevik Revolution. So the point is, this isn't his victory speech. This is how steeped he is in the tradition, the heritage of the legacy of communism, socialism, and Marxism. Roll cut 6, Mike.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater.
Now, that's working class Marxism. And you notice, by the way, this is from a guy who is a Nepo baby. His mother, wealthy director. His father, I'm going to get to his father because his father is the key to Mamdani. His father is a professor, a radical left-wing, in fact, a Marxist professor at Columbia University. He was born literally in privilege with a silver spoon in his mouth. He went to the most expensive boarding school in New York. He lives in a multi-million-dollar rent-stabilized, I'm not kidding, rent-control apartment on the Upper West Side of New York. He's got multiple mansions, including one in Uganda. And, this guy has never held a job. Literally, he has never held a job his entire life. Okay. He never worked at a McDonald's. He never mowed the lawn. He never even opened up a lemonade stand. He became a low-level state assemblyman that no one heard of 4 or 5 years ago. That's it. And did hardly nothing while he was in the state assembly. Until AOC plucked him. And by the way, he was a failed rapper. What he really wanted to be was a successful rapper. And he was a disaster. So he got into politics. And he became, and as a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, as an avowed communist. And AOC basically plucked him from obscurity and said, we're going to run you for mayor of New York. And then she groomed him. Bernie groomed him. And then as he got more popular and more popular, they went to Obama and said, this is the guy who we think can go all the way to New York. And that's when Obama took him under his wing. So this guy has never scarred his knuckles. He's never burnt his hands. He doesn't have calluses. He doesn't know what an honest day's work is. Okay? It's all through pamphlets and propaganda and reading Karl Marx. In fact, he said his most outside of the Quran, he said the two most influential books he's ever read are A, the Quran, which guide him on everything, and B, the Communist Manifesto. So outside of the Communist Manifesto, that's where he gets his working class, quote unquote, consciousness. Now, to show you how radical he is, okay, listen to this. And I want to give a hat tip to Elon Musk, because Elon was the one that found this out and then spread it everywhere on X. This is Zoran Mamdani. Now, when he went to university, he majored in quote unquote African studies. Now, this is going to be very important. I'm going to get to this, I promise, in the next segment. This is the connection with his father. But like Obama, he's an African anti-colonialist. Remember, Obama's family is from Kenya. His father was from Kenya. I believe he was born in Kenya. Whether he was born or not, Obama repeatedly says he identifies as a fundamentally Kenyan, like his father. And he also talked about anti-colonialism and the hatred of the West and the hatred of whites and the love of Marxism and socialism and the overthrow of the West and the overthrow of capitalism. So Mamdani majored in African studies. This is what Mamdani wrote just a year ago. Okay? Quote, when at New York Governor Cuomo refuses to tax the rich, he's refusing to let workers enjoy the wealth they created. When he says low taxes foster a quote-unquote business-friendly environment, he means an environment where it's easy for bosses to steal from workers. Now, here it comes. Listen to this. Taxation isn't theft. Capitalism is. Let me repeat what he said. And this, by the way, is straight from Karl Marx. Literally, this is straight from the Communist Manifesto. If you want, I can cite you the page. The page, I can cite it to you chapter and verse. Quote, taxation isn't theft. Capitalism is. So you see, for him, any business owner, small business owner, medium-sized business owner, any entrepreneur, anyone, you are stealing from the workers. You make a profit, you're stealing from the workers. When you tax people, that's why he's going to go after whites. He said it, we're going to go after every white neighborhood. You're not stealing. Because the whole system is based on theft, according to him. So what you have to do is you take from those who have, and those who have are middle-class people. It's not just the billionaires or the millionaires, because he's not going to take from his own mother and his own father because they're millionaires. He's not going to take from himself because he's a multimillionaire. He's going to go after ordinary middle class people. And it's not your money. It's the state's money. Because everything you have is based off of theft. You see, I'm paid at iHeart because somehow I'm exploiting Mike. No, I'm serious. And I'm exploiting Sandy. So take from me. Now, he's going to take from Mike and Sandy as well. Because somebody built the board that Mike is running, or the board that Sandy is using. So you see, they're also exploiting the workers beneath them. You see how it works? And then they end up just taking from everybody. Taxation isn't theft. Capitalism is. That is literally communism 101. And they're going to do this in the financial center of the United States? Maybe the financial capital of the world? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Now, I have to say this, okay, and then I promise I'm going to go back to the phones. Never in the history of humanity has any people or any country voted in communism. It has always come through the barrel of a gun. Whether it's the Soviet Union spreading it on imposing it on Eastern Europe, or through some kind of a revolutionary overthrow. Say the Bolsheviks versus the Tsars, or Mao versus Chiang Kai-shek. All right, huge night for the Democrats last night. In particular, a very big night for the radical far left. It is now their party. They own it in Virginia. They own it in New Jersey. They certainly own it now in New York City. And now they say they're going to bring their Marxist revolution all across the entire country. Can the communist juggernaut be stopped? And is it now time for Trump to stand up to this growing Marxist revolution? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are loaded. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, CJ.
Yeah, it's just to think it was only 24 years ago when those terrorists slammed the planes into the Twin Towers, and New Yorkers in America said they would never forget. Now they have a Muslim mayor running the city of New York. You know, I hate to say that I was right, but for many years I've been identifying the Democratic Party as the Democratic Communist Party. So here we are. So now the Democrats have nowhere to go. They have lost their steady flow of voters coming legally over the border. So the voters that they are targeting now, homing in on, are the people who are getting entitlements, who are wanting entitlements. And that's what this is all about. This is class warfare, and we will be entering, as many has said, they thought there would be a civil war. What it's going to be, in the end, is a religious war. That's what this is all about. It's class warfare. Taking what hardworking Americans have earned and giving it into the entitlement programs. And we see it across the board. We saw it with free tuition, free health care. We have in every state in this country, there are entitlements for people on welfare, for housing and such. That's what they want. That's what these people are fighting for. They want a free America. And what I mean by free is to get everything free. They don't care. Democrats would give a communist their vote for a ham sandwich. That's the way they roll. They naturally roll that way. You know, and to think it was only 50 years ago, last month, that the Vietnam War ended and 58,220 men gave their lives and were told to kill every communist in sight. Now we have them running for public office in the United States of America. That's what 50 years will do. And unless President Trump gets a constitutional change on people who are allowed to hold elected office in the United States, there will be undoubtedly a Muslim in the White House. And I think the only way he can do this is to ban all Muslims from coming into the United States of America and granting them citizenship based on the fact that Sharia law conflicts with the Constitution of the United States. He should require that everyone who comes into this country speak English fluently. Jeff, we see it here in Boston. We see it with free buses. It's free this, free that. And that's what this is all about. They want more and more entitlements. Americans today, many don't want to work. And COVID was in part responsible for that. We have people now still refusing to go back to the office. And COVID's been over, what now, for 3 years? This is what America's become, and we have to stamp it out. As I said a few weeks ago, I'm going to grab a bag of popcorn and watch the demise of New York City. As one CEO of one of the largest supermarkets said a few short weeks ago, is that if Madonna is elected, that he would close down every food store in New York City. And I would say to the people, as what you said, you better pack your bags and get out, because they're not targeting multimillionaires. Those aren't the ones that are going to pay for entitlements or rent control or free food or free housing or free health care. It's going to be the working people in New York City. And as one of your callers said, people are concerned about two main factors: basically housing and health care. And the dirty little secrets of this, I know someone who has an Advantage plan who was just canceled by a major healthcare carrier in Massachusetts. Okay, and the reason I found out is because I spoke with a gentleman who's in the insurance business, and he told me that these insurance companies are losing money. They're losing money because the illegals were going into the emergency wards for a sniffle, $150, $200 at a take. And on the housing here in Boston, you say a single-family home. There's one not too far from me. Goes up for sale, and it's worth $600,000. A working person cannot even bid on that house because the developer will come in and pay $800,000, knock it down, and put up 6 units, and the city loves it because instead of getting one tax bill, they're now getting 6 tax bills. So they work against their own people. But as I said, Jeff, in a way, I am glad that this happened.
You know, CJ, it's funny you should say that because, by the way, your points are excellent. Again, as usual, you look at what illegal immigration has done, what these illegals have done. They have driven the cost of housing through the roof, the cost of rent through the roof because of congestion, overpopulation. They've bankrupted our healthcare system, which is why it's become so expensive. I mean, I could go on and on. They are literally sucking up our taxes, and there's nothing left for anything else. And that's why the cost of living keeps rising. The quality of services keeps declining. There's no question now. You can't have that many parasites and leeches. You just can't. After a while, it bleeds you white. I don't care who you are. But to your point that you made just now, you know, I'm just like you on this. I'm literally completely split in my mind. On the one hand, I really feel sorry because there are many New Yorkers who don't want this, who didn't vote for this, who are good, decent, tax-paying, hardworking, patriotic Americans. And they're the ones who are going to get screwed. And they have done nothing wrong. Nothing. Okay, they got betrayed by their own people in New York. But there's another part of me. I'm sorry. You're right, CJ. I'm sorry. It's there. It was there even last night when it officially came down that he won. Part of me said, good. And I don't mean good like I wish misery on anybody. Please don't misunderstand me. But I'm sick and tired of dealing with these moonbats like Bill and Sudbury who don't know what they're talking about, who celebrate every freaking Marxist communist revolution and support every crazy, insane socialist idea. Well, you wanted communism? Well, now you got communism. And you're going to get it good and hard. So don't come crying to me now. You want to defund the police? You're going to get it. You want to abolish the prisons? You people are insane, but okay, you're going to get it. You want your stupid $30 an hour minimum wage, which is going to destroy businesses because they can't afford it. It's not a question of not wanting to give people $30 an hour. If a businessman can't afford it and you're forcing him to pay it, what do you think he's going to do? He's either going to lay everybody off or shut his business down. It's been done over and over again. You're going to give people free buses? You know what that means? The homeless, drug addicts are going to be, especially in the wintertime. What do you think they're going to do? They're just going to live on that freaking bus. So you're going to see crime explode on the buses. Never mind that it's going to cost you a fortune. Universal child care? For what is it, 8-9 million people in New York? That alone is going to bankrupt the city. That alone. That's it. That's it. You're done. You're cooked. And you want to eat the rich? His words? Okay. What, you think New York is the only game in town? Okay. So you soak the rich. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to stand there and say, yeah, take all our money. Go ahead. They're off to Florida. They're off to Texas. They're already moving to South Carolina. They're like, okay, nice knowing you. Bye-bye. So all those jobs and all the tax base that's with it, because all these people work and they pay taxes, gone. Now, you want to go after all the white people? Because that's what he says. He wants to go after the white working class, the white neighborhoods. Okay, they're going to leave. And their talents go with them, their skills, their taxes, their money, everything goes with them. So, you want to live in third world filth, poverty, and chaos, anarchy? Okay, I don't know what else to tell you. You want communism? You're going to get communism. And again, I go back to an earlier point. Everywhere communism has triumphed, it has always come at the barrel of a gun. They have to shoot their way in. Only in freaking New York do these idiots vote it in. Literally, they voted in. And they're like, it's going to work here. And they're patting themselves on their own shoulder. Ah, our moment's come. Or as they just call it the revolution. So, yeah, all you saw yesterday were these idiots, these Antifa idiots, and these woke, college students brainwashed by their professors. And all of them with the signs, literally, the revolution is now. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you want to have permanent rent freeze? Okay. Who's going to build a building after this? Tell me, are you going to take all the regulations, all the permits, all the taxes, all the bureaucratic hurdles, plus you got to deal with the unions, plus you got to be on the construction site, and I do all of this, and I put up, say, I don't know, an apartment building with 6 apartments or 8 apartments or 10 apartments, and I can't make any money on the apartment because you've put in this draconian rent control? No. Who's going to do that? Who's going to build the building? Nobody. So then, you know what these socialist idiots say? The state will do it. Really? We're going to do public housing. Yeah. And what do you think happens with public housing? Look at the ghettos. Look what public housing turns into. This is what you want? Okay. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. So, look, they never say this about fascism. Have you noticed? They never say, well, it was only tried in Germany and in Italy and in France for a while under the occupation and Spain with Franco and, but it didn't create a perfect society, but it just wasn't tried in the right place. Notice they never say that about fascism. But when it comes to communism, it's again and again and again and again. It's so what, 50, 100, 150, 200? Tell me, what's the magic number before we say, guys, it no work. I mean, it no work. He's a buffoon. Mamdani is a buffoon. He's never held an honest job in his life. He's got no resume. He's got no experience. This loser, I swear to you, never even ran a lemonade stand. And you're going to give him the keys to New York City? With 300,000 government employees? The financial epicenter of the United States? Wall Street is based there, for God's sake. And on top of everything else, okay? This is the part. This is the one you just can't wrap your mind around. When he's pressed and he says, well, your mayoralty, who's your model? Who's the person You're trying to make New York into what? What mayor are you trying to, embody and replicate? His answer, London. London, under Sadiq Khan. You want to turn New York into London? They have record murder rates? It's now become a Sharia law, Muslim-dominated city? Literally, pick up the British press. They're on the verge of a civil war. Not exaggeration. They're on the verge of a potential civil war. He has turned London into a third world hellhole. And this is your model? So he's even telling you, I want third world communism. I want Islamic communism. Like they've happened in London. I want to bring New York to its knees the way London has been brought to its knees. And you vote for that? You got to get your head examined. Honestly, I don't know what's worse. Voting for a lunatic and a snake oil salesman and a grifter and a con man like this guy, or openly backing and voting for a guy, this is Jay Jones now, in Virginia, as the top law enforcement officer in your state, may I add, who openly fantasizes. He says, no, my dream, this is what gets me going. I think how many Republicans I can put 2 bullets in the back of their head. And I fantasize about killing their children in the arms of their mothers. There was a poll of Virginia Democrats. That's why I knew Jay Jones was going to win. I kept saying he's going to win. They're like, Kuhner, you're crazy. I'm like, okay. Why was he going to win? A shocking poll. 93% of Virginia Democrats, 93% said they agree with Jay Jones. That what he said doesn't shock them. It doesn't bother them. And I'm like, what? Calling for the extermination, the murder, the execution of Republicans, your political opponents, and their children in the arms of their mother? And you're okay with that? Yeah. Let me tell you what a famous German philosopher just said recently. Okay? We don't know him in America. He's very big in Germany. And he was talking about the Democrats. He said, and this was in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, and how Democrats cheered it on, want more of it. He said, America is now waking up to the reality that we Germans woke up to in the 1930s under Hitler. 1/3 of your people want to kill the other third of your people. And the third in the middle just don't give a damn. They just don't care. They just don't care. The Democrats want to murder Republicans. And those in the so-called middle, center, moderates, whatever it is, they're just too busy playing video games or watching Netflix or collecting a welfare check or whatever they do. They just don't care. That's what the Democrats voted for yesterday. That's what the media celebrated. They are Jay Jones. And now there's Zohran Mamdani. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's worse. I just know that both are very dangerous. And I'm telling the White House, I love President Trump. I think he's been an incredible president. I don't want to see any more heads of state rolling into the White House. With all due respect. I love the peace deals. I want peace like anybody else. But it's like a rolling line now of country after country where they're signing this deal and that deal for peace. I want you to focus now here at home, nonstop. We are in a political war of epic proportions. And the Democrats are going for your throat. Mamdani declared war on you and your presidency. The Democrats have declared war on you and your presidency. And they're openly talking now about murdering their political opponents. I don't care about peace between Thailand and Cambodia, with all due respect. Or between Kosovo and Serbia, or whatever. Again, with all due respect. It's nice. It's great. I don't want to seem cold-hearted. I need you focused here at home. And you got to get Pam Blondie off her ass. Or to be more accurate, out of that Fox News green room. And say, I don't care about your hair, and I don't care about your nails, and I don't care about you wanting to be a Fox News legal analyst when you finish your gig here. Either we go to war with the left, or I get somebody else as attorney general. Because make no mistake about it, this is a political war. And the Democrats last night just fired the first shot. Ron in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Ron, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Good, good. How are you, Ron?
All right. Jeff, the way I see this is we've been in a protracted civil war since the George Floyd riots. I think that the shots were fired last night. New York has become our Fort Sumter. And what Trump has to do is he has to take a city, I think something like Boston, and I think he's got to activate the Insurrection Act and go in there with the Marines and clean it out. And then go to Chicago and do the same. And then finally hit New York and clean it out. It's either us or them. It's very simple. And, we've got to take this thing and run with it.
Ron, if I'm asking you, I'm going to ask you a personal question. If it's too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. When you heard the results last night, it was a clean sweep. They took New Jersey, they took Virginia. Now, these were blue states, so they're just dominating their own states. But still, I'm talking, these were radical leftists. All of them, including a former CIA operative, Spanberger now. The CIA, the deep state's running Virginia, okay? Let's just be clear. But when they finally put Mamdani over the top, were you shocked?
No, I expected it. I saw what was happening. I realized that we've been in a protracted civil war, and we haven't been taking it seriously. I agree with you on Pam Bondi. She has got to prosecute the conspirators of the Russia hoax. All those people need to go to prison. That includes Obama, Hillary, Biden, Brennan Clapper, Comey, the whole bunch of them. They've got to be prosecuted. If she doesn't prosecute them, we're lost. We're done.
Ron, amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Ron, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, this is the text. This is the text that sums it all up. It is from 617. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Jeff, socialism is the ruse. The end game is to flush people out of New York City and replace them with Muslims from the third world who have deep pocket money backed by the Muslim Brotherhood. Bingo. That's literally what Sadiq Khan, the Muslim mayor of London, has done. That's how he changed and transformed London into essentially a third world Muslim city. You use socialism to flush the middle class out. The middle working class, get them out. Chase them out of London. And then you bring in millions of migrants from the third world, overwhelmingly Muslim. They will vote for you 1,000,000 times. You keep yourself in power forever, and that's how you impose Sharia law, and that's literally how you Islamicize a city and then eventually the country. And that is the playbook that Mamdani, AOC, Bernie, and of course their big backers, Soros and the Muslim Brotherhood, that is their plan. And let me tell you what Pam Bondi needs to focus on. There was a lot of foreign money coming in from Pakistan in particular, or as Obama likes to call them, Pakistan. The Pakistanis bankrolled, along with Soros, bankrolled almost all of Mamdani's campaign. That's a foreign influence peddling operation. Those are illegal foreign campaign violations that were committed. I believe Mamdani is a foreign plant. I think there's no question. And I'm going to get to this later, I promise. He's a Ugandan communist. And the Ugandan aspect is going to be huge. Just like the Kenyan aspect was huge for Obama. But the fact of the matter is, the game plan is get these native New Yorkers, especially middle working class white New Yorkers, Jewish New Yorkers, any New Yorkers that are opposed to the far left, you flush them out of New York. And as Mamdani said, we are going to be a permanent sanctuary city, and we want to bring in millions and millions from around the third world and settle them all across New York. And the overwhelming majority will be Muslims. 617, game, set, match. That's the strategy. And then wash, rinse, repeat. Do the exact same thing. Do it in Boston, do it in Philadelphia, do it in Chicago, do it in Portland, do it in Seattle, do it in Los Angeles. And before you know it, it takes time. It takes another 20, 25 years. Okay, it took them 25 years to get to this point. They just need another 20, 25. And they believe then they will conquer the country. That is their plan. And it's right there in the open. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Man.
Mark, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, my man. You know, I just want you to know that there's some global warming fell up in the mountains last night. And they're expecting some more today. So, hey, listen, you know, I got a couple of things to say here, Jeff. First of all, to Virginia. You had an opportunity to put the first black, even woman, as the governor of a state pretty much where slavery started in this country, right? And what does the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People do? They endorse the lily white woman whose family has ties to slavery. I mean, you can't make this crap up. Instead of endorsing the black woman, the migrant, the immigrant black woman, they endorse the lily white woman whose family used to own slaves. I mean, that's just, I don't know where to even go with that. But as a great man said, let that go. We'll talk about Mamdani, right? We could go back and forth, Jeff, all about the economics of this and what's going to happen with crime and what's going to happen, you know, to the people fleeing the city. First of all, if you flee, leave your stupid voting record in New York City. Don't come to my town and try to spread your cancer, you know, into New Hampshire. Keep it in New York City. But look, Jeff, I'm going to get my crystal ball out, buddy. Ready? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen over the next 2 years in New York City.
You get me. You make me very nervous when you do that, Mark, because honestly, you're like right 99.9% of the time. That's why I never ask you about my health, because I'm always afraid of what you're going to say. All right, go ahead, Mike. Give it to me. Give it to the audience.
All right. You're going to hear the Islamic call to prayer blasted over Times Square, Jeff. You're going to see 100,000 Muslims every day take to Times Square and pray. That's going to be flooded across the world, Jeff, as the symbolism of Islam has conquered New York City. That's going to happen. Mamdani, because he is a hardcore Islamist, is going to call for the creation of civil Sharia courts, Jeff, to settle disputes between the marginalized Muslim community, okay, and others, all right? He's going to want these courts created to help our Muslim brothers and sisters, Jeff. And then he's going to also push to create Muslim banks, Jeff, Sharia-compliant banks. Why? Again, to look out for our marginalized and threatened Muslim community, Jeff. If you want to do business in these communities, your business must be Sharia-compliant, and you must use these Sharia-compliant banks, Jeff. He's going to do it. And the worst thing, Jeff, and I know it's going to happen, we talk about 9/11, okay? How long is it going to be before he takes to the podium and says, we have done studies, and these studies show that after these memorials that we host, there is always an uptick in violence against our Muslim brothers and sisters. And we must take care of our constituents, Jeff. So moving forward, we will not be holding these 9/11 memorial services, Jeff, not because we don't recognize that people died that day, Jeff, but because we want to protect the most
vulnerable among us, i.e., stop the Islamophobia. That's what he's going to claim. 617-266-6868 is the number. I think that call from Mark may be one of the most important calls in the history of this show. Mark has a history of really a very good record of making accurate predictions. And everything that he said, I think is going to happen. I mean, we'll see. I hope it doesn't. But it's what Mamdani has promised to do. It's what they've done in other cities when Muslim mayors have taken power in the West, in Europe, even here in the United States, especially up in Canada. And I think he's right. I think that's what we're looking at. It won't be done overnight. It takes time. But over the next couple of years, you watch how much New York City is going to change. Now, I want to play a cut. This is very important. Please, I need a few minutes. I want to go back to the phone lines, but the Ugandan angle to Mamdani, the media is deliberately overlooking this. Now, remember, his father is Ugandan. His mother is a Muslim from India. By the way, highly recognized and very wealthy director. And they have a big home in Uganda. They often go back to Uganda. In many ways, Mamdani has said he's a son of Uganda. He got married in Uganda with his Muslim wife. And they literally partied. They celebrated for 3 days and 3 nights. And in Uganda, it was a huge deal. He ran his campaign on an explicitly third world message. In fact, he said again and again, this is a black-brown coalition in solidarity against quote-unquote white supremacy. And what he means by white supremacy is not the Ku Klux Klan, obviously, or neo-Nazis. He means anybody who's white. Jews, anybody of European descent, you name it. So he's running, like his father, an anti-colonial Marxist campaign. And so and what he did was, to his credit, he took advantage of all the migrants that Biden had allowed to pour into New York City. And he went to community after community. He went to the Ethiopian community, the Somali community, the Indian community, the Pakistani community, the Bangladeshi community. You name it. The Yemeni community. Yes, there's a lot of people from Yemen in New York City. He hit them all. And he promised them all the moon. He promised them free things. Childcare, free. Bus fare, free. Rent control, you name it. $30 an hour minimum wage. Everything free. City-run grocery stores, all the food, free. Listen now in his victory speech where he lays it out. He says, this is who I'm fighting for. Roll cut 7A, Mike.
We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. And to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties.
Ethiopian aunties, Trinidadian line cooks, Uzbek nurses. Nurses, by the way, Uzbekistan is very Muslim. It's in Central Asia, former Soviet Republic. I didn't even know there was an Uzbek community in New York City. Anyway, Uzbek nurses, Senegalese taxi drivers from Africa, Mexican abuas, I don't even know what that means, Yemeni bodega owners, on and on. And then, of course, ana minkum walaikum. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. It's some kind of an Arabic Muslim saying. I don't know what that means. Now, he's cobbling together, as you can tell, explicitly. This is now, there's nothing, it's naked. A third world anti-colonial coalition. His father, and this is now the key, his father, just as his son is now running and has just won to be mayor of New York, his father is a Muslim Marxist professor at Columbia University. The reason why I mention his father is when Mamdani is asked, who is the person who has most influenced your thought, your vision, your ideas, your political program for New York? He always says, my dad. He talks about Bernie, he talks about AOC, he talks about the Communist Manifesto, he talks about the Quran, he mentions all of that. But the key figure, again, is his dad. Now, this is very important. His dad, as I told you, is Ugandan. He has just come out with a book. Listen to this. It's not coincidental. He said, I timed it to come out when my son would run for mayor. The book is called Slow Poison. Idi Amin, Yoweri Museveni, and the Making of the Ugandan State by Mahmoud Mamdani. So the father is Mahmoud, and he's Zoran. Now, you're going to say, Jeff, what the hell are you talking about here? Okay, he writes a book on Idi Amin. What is shocking about the book, and every reviewer has pointed this out, is that Mamdani's father actually praises Idi Amin. It's a pro-Idi Amin book. He clearly sympathizes with Idi Amin. Now, many of you are probably going to say, Jeff, I know that name, but it rings a bell. Idi Amin was the brutal dictator of Uganda from 1971 to 1979. He rode to power on a program of anti-British imperialism. Uganda used to be a colony of Britain. And so he ran as an explicit anti-colonialist, but also a socialist Marxist anti-colonialist. He was so brutal while he was in power. By the way, he went after all of the minorities in Uganda. He slaughtered all the whites. He ethnically expelled all of the Asians, the South Asians, the Indian community, which had been there for a long time. He literally drove them all out. He was so brutal. You can look this up because you're going to say, come on, Jeff, you got to be, exaggerating for effect. No, I'm telling you. He ate them. He ate some of his enemies. He was known for cannibalism. Some of his top political rivals, he didn't just have killed. He would then have their dead body roasted on a spit, on a fire. And then he would eat the body. Okay? He was a cannibal. During his time, he was referred to quote unquote, and that's when the term actually meant something, the Hitler of Uganda. They always say in miniature. In other words, he's not killing 6 million Jews, but that he was basically the Hitler of Uganda. He was a racialist. He was an anti-white bigot. He was a socialist. He was also a huge Jew hater. He became very famous for the airport that was the main airport of Uganda, called in Entebbe Airport. Movies have been made. That's when they took the Palestinians took many Israelis hostage, and the Israelis then performed a huge raid, a daring raid, to free all of these Palestinians. Idi Amin sided with the Palestinians. He was a rabid anti-Israel Jew hater and supported the Israelis being held hostage. Now, by the way, he's a fascinating man, an evil man, please. And he eventually got ousted from power because he was so evil and cruel and dictatorial that the country just turned on him. I mean, he was a butcher and a mass murderer. If you want an entertaining movie, which is based on a novel, but it's actually quite accurate, it's called The King of Scotland. If you want a good movie to see this weekend, trust me. And Forrest Whitaker gets Idi Amin to a T. 617-266-6868. Idi Amin, I guess is how you pronounce it in Ugandan. Anyway, Idi-Amin is, anyway, that's the name of the dictator. Again, you could see the movie The King of Scotland. It's got a great cast, excellent director. It's based off of a novel, but a lot of it is accurate. It really captures Idi Amin, his anti-colonial socialist revolution, and just how murderous and destructive it was. And really what a racist and a Jew hater and an anti-Semite that he was. Point being, that's who Mamdani's father praises in his latest book that just literally just came out to coincide with his son's run to be the next mayor of New York. That's who he believes is a Ugandan patriot and an exemplar and a model for anti-colonial Marxists all over the third world. So the connections, the Ugandan roots of Zoran Mamdani are very, very important. Because, as he said repeatedly, my dad is my hero. My dad is my intellectual hero. The greatest intellectual influence on me is through my father. And his father is a self-avowed, by the way, very pro-Palestinian, rabidly anti-Semitic, Muslim Marxist, who now admires one of the most murderous dictators of the 20th century. So that's what you're getting in Gracie Mansion. Barry in New Bedford. Thanks for holding, Barry, and welcome.
Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Barry.
I think there's one option. The nuclear option, I think, is coming. There's a gubernatorial race in 2026 in New York. Kathy Hochul is already behind Stefanik. It's a known fact. And a lot of the money that poured into New York City, especially from the financial district, Bloomberg, all went to Cuomo. I want to make this prediction on your show. I don't know if it'll happen. I think it will. Kathy Hochul, to save her job, will remove Mudami in 6 months, and she has the power to do it. People don't know this. There's no recall laws in New York City. However, the governor does have the ability to remove the mayor of New York City. And I believe within 6 months, when he tries all this lot of this fake this, free that, but specifically when he tries to empty Rikers Island and remove the Terror Task Force and the NYPD, that will be the grounds to remove Mudami from power. And I think it's going to happen, Jeff. And if it's not Hochul, it's going to be Stefanik. So I think the war has started. I listened to that Cuomo speech, the same one you talked about. He made it sound like a war is coming, but I think Kathy Hochul is going to have to save her job because she's already underwater in New York. And I think the one way she's going to do it is by removing him.
From your lips to God's ears. And look, if she needs an extra incentive, that's why I'm hoping Pam Bondi and her people are listening. He is violating campaign finance laws. He clearly broke them. You're not allowed to take foreign money. And I'm telling you, he's swimming. Mamdani's campaign was swimming in foreign cash. Straight from Pakistan and straight from the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and in Uganda and in North Africa. So all they got to do is open up that front and, just investigate and then indict him. And then Kathy Hochul can come in. You don't have to even wait to empty out Rikers Island or Sing Sing or start disbanding the NYPD and you start seeing criminals just rampaging on the streets of New York. You open up a campaign finance violation case against him and Kathy Hochul can remove him. And if she doesn't remove him, you're right, Stefanik will. So, Barry, I hope they're listening because it's time to take the gloves off. Barry, great call. Thank you for that call. Jeffrey in Boston. Thanks for holding, Jeffrey, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeffrey.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. As far as New York, I say let them rot, okay? If they want to elect a person like Mamdani with all of his baggage, all of his history, all of his hatred, so be it. Let all of the people that have money leave. Let all of the people who do not want to work, who think everything shall be free, let them suffer and let them get a wake-up call. What my concern is, I fear that now the Republicans, they will kowtow right after these elections, and then specifically pertaining to the shutdown, they will now cave to what the Democrats want, strictly just out of fear and false propaganda.
Well, Jeffrey, look, I can just tell you this, and look, I'm like you. I don't trust the Republican establishment, these gutless rhinos, as far as I can throw them. And they revealed themselves again in this race. They threw Curtis Sliwa, who to me, again, is a patriot. I don't care what anybody thinks about him or says about him. He may have his flaws. I don't care. He was infinitely better than Cuomo, infinitely better than Mamdani. And they threw that man under the bus. Fox News did. The New York Post did. The entire Republican establishment did. WABC, to its eternal shame, did. So they threw that man under the bus. What President Trump said this morning, he was at a breakfast with senators, and he's livid. He's livid about two things. I've never seen him like this. I mean, I'm talking, he is red hot. Number one, he wants this shutdown now to end. It is now the most damaging shutdown, the most expensive shutdown in American history. It's the longest and by far the most economically damaging. But the second thing, and these are his words, not mine, the election of Mamdani now means that the United States is facing a communist insurgency. And that's what this is. This is a communist insurgency. And for the first time in history, it was democratically elected. And I'm sorry, but the facts are the facts. 50.4% of New Yorkers voted for Mamdani, which means they voted for Islamo-communism. So even if Sliwa dropped out of the race, and just for the sake of argument, all 7.1% of his voters, because those are the ones that voted for him at the end, it was 7.1%, say every single one of them threw their support behind Cuomo, they still would have lost to Mamdani. It would have been razor thin. It would have been, 50.4 to 49.6. It would have been close. But Mamdani still would have won because he won a majority. And by the way, many of Sliwa's supporters said they wouldn't vote for Cuomo or Mamdani. So there's no guarantee that all of them would have backed Cuomo. But just for the sake of argument, say they did. That still wouldn't have been enough. So what I'm saying is New York now has to live with this for the rest of history, for the rest of all time. You did what Cuba didn't do, what North Korea didn't do, what China didn't do, what Russia didn't do under the Bolsheviks. I can give you country after country. You voted in communism. And now this is a political insurgency. And later on, I'm going to play the cut. I want you to hear it from AOC herself. She's now telling the entire establishment, Schumer, Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, all of them, she's telling them, we are the future of the party. Either you get behind us or we destroy every single one of you. So there is now a civil war in the Democratic Party. And it is going to lead to city after city, I believe, falling to these communists. And now Trump is the one saying, I'm going to lead the counterattack. I am going to lead now the anti-communist movement in this country, and we are not going to let them win. And essentially, you can hold me to this. Trump is going to turn the midterms into a national referendum on communism. He's going to say, do you want Mamdani, Bernie, AOC, Democrats running America? Or do you want normalcy to run America? Do you want communism or anti-communism? What do you want? And I'm telling you, the overwhelming majority of the American people are going to vote against the Mamdani, Bernie, AOC, Democratic Communist Revolution. So they have made now, I believe, the biggest mistake in the history of the Democratic Party. And New York has now made its biggest mistake in its history. New York is not going to survive this. I mean, the city is still going to be there, but it's never going to be what it was. They have screwed themselves like no one has ever screwed themselves before. And I think the Democrats, by becoming now a full-blown Marxist communist party, are now going to be consigned in a couple election cycles. It won't happen tonight or tomorrow or next week. But you watch 2026, 2028, you watch. America is going to be MAGA country. All of it. 80% of it. It's going to be it's going to be an 80-20 country. The cities, some of them are going to be hardcore communist. 80% will be MAGA conservative. And the Democrats will be consigned to the dustbin of history. That's what the Democrats have now done. And I don't like James Carville. I remember what he was like under Bill Clinton. He was as corrupt and dirty as they come. But he's the one that's ringing the alarm bells in the Democratic Party. He's saying, you let the likes of AOC and Ilhan Omar and Michelle Wu and Rashida Tlaib and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and now Mamdani, Kami Mamdani, you let them take over the Democratic Party. He's openly said it. He goes, we are, and I hate to swear, so I'm not going to swear. We are effed. That's what he said. We are, quote unquote, effed. Let me clean it up. We're screwed. They will destroy us. Those are Carville's words. So there's going to be a lot more infighting. There's going to be a lot more purging. There's going to be the Democrats now are heading for a serious civil war, political civil war. And this is going to launch a larger political civil war between the rest of the country, normal America, MAGA America, red state America, and these crazy lunatics that are now seizing power in New York and in Chicago and in Portland and in LA. So literally, that's the battle lines now. I weep for New York. I do, because there are good people there. They call into this show. They don't deserve this. I weep for the people in Portland. I weep for the people in Chicago. I do. Honest to God, I do. But you're asking me politically, would I rather be on the 20 side or on the 80 side? We're on the 80 side. The only way now the communists can win is if we're weak and we appease. We have to hit them and hit them hard. And I mean really hard. And if we do that, we win. And that's why I'm urging Trump. I'm begging him. I'm practically begging him. Please, I don't want to see America fall like what happened to the land of my ancestors. It's time to take the gloves off. 617-266-6868. In other words, don't listen to the Republican establishment. Follow Trump. This is a communist insurgency. Crush it. And joining me now to discuss this and so much more, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto, full disclosure, she is my better half, my wonderful wife. Grace, how are you?
I am excellent, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me on today on this historic day in the United States of America.
Well, you were watching the election results way into the late of the night, looking at all of the analysis. So let me ask you this. I got a text message from 781, and it's the picture of the Statue of Liberty, the face of the Statue of Liberty, but now in a burqa. And it says, "Welcome to New Yorkistan." And underneath it, it says, the person writes, "The new reality TV show in New York City will be Say Yes to the Burqa."
Well, Jeff, I got to tell you something.
So hold on. So let me ask you this. Are we now, with last night's vote, is New York, not today, not tomorrow, but in the next couple of years, we talk about Londonistan. Yeah. Are we now watching the rise of New Yorkistan?
Well, Jeff, look, Zoran Mamdani and his family are going to attempt to do that. But my message to New Yorkers is very simple. Stand your ground. That's what we have to tell everybody there. Do not leave. To the businesses, do not leave. To the middle class, do not leave. You've got to resist him. And when you think about this, it's a population of 8.5 million people. Roughly about 1 million of these people voted him in. So there's a lot of people that either didn't vote or that voted against him. So there's still a long, long game that we can play. And the worst that can happen is if all the tax producers and the businesses leave. They've got to stand for their property rights and their business rights and take him all the way to the Supreme Court if he tries to assault any of their rights. And in the United States, how have we defeated communism? It's by holding on to our property rights. So everybody in New York, stand your ground. And the second point I want to make is this. Jeff, Zoran Mamdani is no Idi Amin, he's no Lenin, he's no Stalin, he's no Hugo Chavez, he's no Maduro. The guy's a joke. Let me tell you about this guy. When it looked like the polls were closing and he might not win, he was trembling and shaking and crying in a speech saying that there's Islamophobia in New York City. This guy is very weak. And you know what he strikes me as? He's another Obama. He's not going to do anything for New York. In his speech, it looked to me like an audition for the general election already. So he's going to do just like Obama did. This is a launching pad for his own career. What actual good did Obama do, in Chicago? What did he do as a state senator? Not very much. He just used it all to launch himself to national stardom. And Mamdani is playing the exact same playbook. So this guy is ultimately all about him. His speech was flowery, poetic. It had great rhetorical flourishes. He is mimicking Obama's rise to national attention. He realized last night that all the eyes of the nation were on him, and he went for it. So he's trying to make his name, and what we really saw last night was a fight between Newsom, Spanberger, Sherrill, and Mamdani for who is going to be the next leader of the Democratic Party.
Well, let me ask you this then, the obvious follow-up. Do you think Mamdani will now become the face, the voice, the poster child of this new radical communist Democratic Party?
Well, listen, listen, this is one thing that also struck me throughout the whole night. They're taking Trump's key talking points now. So, Donald Trump campaigned to support and defend the forgotten man. They're all using that language. Donald Trump campaigned to bring down inflation. And what they've done is they've just taken out the word inflation and they're using the word affordability now. And the dumb Democrats have amnesia because the people who caused inflation were the Democrats. So what I'm seeing now is the Democrats are trying to find a way, how do we bury the Biden-Harris debacle? So the first thing they're doing is they're promoting people who can actually speak in clear sentences. Newsom, Spanberger, Sherrill, and Mamdani, one thing they all have in common, they can speak. Unlike Biden, unlike Harris word salad, Biden dementia, and Cuomo who stammers and stutters. So they've rejected those who can't speak, so that's good. That's a step up. At least we're going to get somebody who can speak. And then the second thing they're doing is they're trying to steal Trump's message, and they're calling it something else. Instead of saying we're fighting inflation, they're just changing the language and saying we're going to stand for affordability. So that really struck me. I thought, you hypocrites, you're borrowing from Trump's playbook as you bash him. So you know what they say? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
I want to play a cut. This is Andrew Cuomo at a press conference yesterday. It was just as voting started. Most people yet had not voted in New York. And he talked about this civil war now in the Democratic Party. Mike, roll cut 18.
Well, I think what you're seeing is a civil war in the Democratic Party that has been brewing for a while. You have an extreme radical left that is run by the socialists that is challenging what they would call moderate Democrats. I'm a moderate Democrat. And that contest is what you're seeing here, but you're seeing it all across the country.
Now, leave aside, let it go, as I like to say. To me, how is Cuomo a moderate? But let that go. It's the establishment versus these communist insurgents. Is there a civil war in the Democratic Party? And will the establishment win, or ultimately will the AOC, Bernie, Mamdani, Marxists win? What say you?
Well, Jeff, listen, now every single one of them has to give the public some results, because this battle against inflation, or now the left is calling it affordability, that part is real. That part is real. So Newsom hasn't been able to do anything about that. California is a disaster. So he speaks well, but his record is garbage. And Mamdani, believe it or not, the exit poll showed that 50% of those who actually voted for him said that his policies are not realistic, meaning they want to send a message to all of our political leaders. We cannot afford the cost of living anymore. And this is a very powerful message. So whoever delivers results on this is going to continue ultimately to rise. This guy right now, Zoran Mamdani, he's all talk. It's all rhetoric. Can he actually deliver any of the things he's saying that he's going to deliver? I doubt it. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to bail as soon as he can't deliver. And he's going to try to rise to a different level of state or national politics.
Well, they're already trying to groom him to run for governor and to run for senator. So you're right. He hasn't even gotten into Gracie Mansion, and he's already looking to rise and climb the political ladder. And you compared him to Obama, and guess who's grooming him? Guess who spoke to him just, over the weekend for, they had a long conversation. Obama. So you're right. He may be following Obama's path to political power. Grace, as always, original, independent thinking. I really appreciate it. We are going to talk with you, as always, next time, next week, here on WRKO, the Kuhner Report. Thank you so much. Grace Vuoto, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. I'm just curious. What do you make of Grace's point that Mamdani is really Obama 2.0? Do you agree with her? And that ultimately he's going to be more talk than action because he's so politically ambitious. He just wants to keep rising and rising and rising. And of course, he can't fix the inflation crisis in New York City. He can't fix any of the problems in New York City because socialism just doesn't work. It never has. It never will. So he is going to bail out as soon as he can, the way Obama just kept quickly climbing because he was incompetent at every job that he held. I'm just curious. What say you? 617-266-6868. Robert in Maine. Thanks for holding, Robert, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Robert.
Thanks for all you and your team in the studio and best audience, best host in the industry. I agree. Listen, this guy, Grace's point's a good point. If you look around at all the communist regimes in the world, the people have it rough. But look at the leaders of the communist regimes in North Korea and, in Russia, China, and actually even in Iran where they have those mullahs. The people have it rough, but those people live in luxury. And I think this guy's thinking, well, I could rise this high against all odds. If things do come that way, I'm still going to be at the top of things because he looks at history. He looks at what happened with communist regimes and how the leaders in the party and how the people live versus each other. So he's probably thinking like that at some level, sociopath that he is. But the other thing I wanted to bring up too is that Eric's point was a really nice point. We called a while back and he said, these people, he said, you really gotta, be careful to be a little more selective with the police and with the ICE people. I would remind everybody that, when Biden and his crew let everybody into this country, selectivity of letting these people in was at the bottom of his list of importance. He just let everybody in without any selectivity at all, and we're paying for it now. So, I wanted to. It's a Christian point of view that you turn the other cheek, and that's partially what Eric, I think, was trying to say about not emptying out the slaughterhouses and the farms and just arresting everybody. But we're in a protracted war, a civil war now, and you can't have all of the Christian principles applying every day. You have to be careful and think militarily, and so. They let us in. They let those people in without being selective, and we need to be a little less selective when we arrest these people. And these people are killers on the left. I volunteered the other day at a sign up signature thing for a ballot petition to have separate facilities for men and women in sports. And you should have seen the hate directed at me because I was sitting at that table taking signatures. You look at the body language. You listen to how they swore at me right there in the voting place. It's bad swears at me. These people are killers, potential killers. And from the body language and what they said, I wouldn't put much past them. So
I agree. No, look, Robert, I think that's a very, very important point. The hatred out there now on the left is palpable. And look, when you're cheering the murder, of someone like Charlie Kirk, and I don't just mean online, if people want to look back, I don't encourage because I've saw some images of him being shot. I can't get it out of my mind. But what struck me, besides the bullet obviously hitting him in the neck, is right up front, like he was maybe 20, 25 feet from the stage, it appears to me to be a young college student. And he puts his arms and but with a clenched fist, his arms up in the air in celebration when Charlie Kirk's head just snaps back and you see the blood gushing everywhere. And it's like, yeah. I mean, actually, that's what he says. He goes, yeah, yes. Like, finally somebody shot him in the head or whatever, in the neck. Somebody killed him. Yeah. And that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing it in New York, frankly, in Boston, up where you are in Maine. You're seeing it in Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, Portland, Seattle. You're looking at these people and you're like, where is your humanity? And that's why I go back to Jay Jones. Like, just stand back for a second. Just even, what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever it was? You remember Ralph Northam? Who was then the governor the Democrat governor of Virginia, and pictures came out of when he was much younger and he wore blackface. I believe it was in college. And almost every Democrat denounced him. Not just Virginia Democrat, national Democrats. One after another after another. This is disgusting. This is despicable. This can't stand. You have to step down. You have to resign. Now, he didn't. He wrote out his term. But my point is, the media denounced him. Almost every prominent Democrat denounced him. That was wearing blackface, 30 years ago? We're not talking 30 years ago. We're not even talking wearing blackface, which is bad. It's disgusting. But you're not calling for murder. This is a guy who just a couple of years ago, to a fellow colleague, didn't say it once, didn't say it twice, said it over and over in both texts and in phone calls. I want Republicans murdered. 2 bullets to the head. And I want to see their children murdered in the arms of their mother. Not a single one condemned him. Not a single one denounced him. Hell, they didn't even criticize him. They stood by him shoulder to shoulder. And he ended up not just winning his race, but the governor who stood, or whatever, the candidate, Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic candidate for governor, stood by him. She won in a landslide. The lieutenant governor, who, by the way, is a Muslim candidate, first Muslim elected to high office in Virginia, she stood by him shoulder to shoulder. Democrats across the country, nobody condemned him. They all stood by him shoulder to shoulder. The man is literally the poster child of assassination culture. Murder your opponents, murder their children, and you still get elected. So you're right. That's the only part of Grace's analysis that I disagree with. I mean, she's entitled to her opinion, and when you come on, I want to give her a chance to really have the floor. I'm not there to argue or debate with her. But that was the one part where I said, she's saying, well, Mamdani's soft. Yeah, he may be soft, but the people behind him are not soft. And the people voting for him, they're certainly, as you put it, Robert, they're hard people. They're nasty, hate-filled people. They want violence, and they're calling for violence. And that's the problem with communism. It's like cancer. Once you let it out of that bottle, out of the lamp, you can't put that genie back in. Once you got it in your body, it is war. It's chemotherapy. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's now flexing her muscles. She was smiling ear to ear. She was gloating on Kami Mamdani's victory last night. Listen now to her. This is for Schumer. This is for Hakeem Jeffries. This is for Hillary Clinton. This is for, you name it, across the board. I mean, just literally, whether it's Schumer, Jeffries, anybody now that stands in their way, we're coming for you. This is now our party. Roll cut 19, Mike.
The Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, did not endorse in this race. He did not endorse Mamdani and wouldn't say how he voted. What's your response to that?
Well, what I think is so impressive about what Zohran Mamdani accomplished tonight, as well as the entire movement of New Yorkers that came out to vote for him, is that he had to not just defeat a Republican, he had to defeat a Republican and the old guard of the Democratic Party at the same time. He was fighting a war on 2 fronts and not just one. And he still won resoundingly. And I think the message that sends is that the Democratic Party cannot last much longer by denying the future, by trying to undercut our young, by trying to undercut a next generation of diverse and upcoming Democrats that have the parties, the actual party, that are actual electorate and voter support.
I mean, there you go. I mean, you want to talk about, the proverbial gun to the head. what she's saying is, who's the future? We're the future. What you just saw now, Mamdani, me, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, we're the future. The radical Marxist left. Now, either you join us or we burn the party to the ground. In other words, the party doesn't have a future. Either you get on board our commie revolution or we will burn all of you. And I'm telling you, she's now going to run against Chuck Schumer. The polls consistently show the way Mamdani destroyed Cuomo. It's the playbook. That's how she's going to destroy Chuck Schumer. And the very same voters that voted for Mamdani are now going to vote for her against Schumer. And Schumer's going to run a traditional Democrat campaign, just like Cuomo. He's going to get the unions to endorse him. He's going to get the New York Times to endorse him. He's going to get CNN. He's going to do interviews. And all she's going to do is mobilize the young Sandinistas, the Antifa BLM crowd. On top of, she's going to go to Little Somalia, Little Ethiopia. She's going to go to, you name it. She's going to go to the Latino voters. She's going to go to all of these voters that were brought in under Biden from predominantly third world countries. And they are going to line up and she's going to promise them everything free. And she's going to learn a few words in Arabic, because that's the shtick. A few words in Somali, a few words in Ethiopian, a few words in Pakistani or in Indian, whatever it is. She can already, put together a couple of sentences in Spanish, and man, pander to that foreign-born population, and Chuck Schumer will get destroyed. And by the way, just so that we're clear, they poured a ton of money into Andrew Cuomo's campaign. I'm talking the Bill Ackmans, you name it. I mean, big money. There was a lot of PAC money that Cuomo had. And he saturated the radio airwaves, the TV airwaves. They ran ad after ad after ad. It did nothing to blunt Mamdani. Because as he said it, you are my people. I am you, you are me. And Schumer now is just an old white guy. He's an establishment white guy. Just like Andrew Cuomo. So mark my words, AOC is taking Schumer down. 617-266-6868. Arthur, speaking of New York, in New York. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
One of the problems that Republicans face is the public doesn't understand inflation. Inflation's not like the flu. If you get sick with the flu, you're better in 5 or 6 days. It's more like someone knocking out your teeth. So if Antifa knocks out 5 of my teeth and then later knocks out 2 of the teeth, I'm down 7 teeth. It's cumulative. It's not the rate of inflation is just what you're adding. So it's going to take a while for Trump and Besson to lower prices like through the fuel and energy and bring in new blood into the economy. That's going to take a while. So essentially, as your wife said, they're taking credit for an issue that was really Trump's issue.
Arthur, that's a brilliant point. Absolutely brilliant. I don't agree with you, as I like to say, not 100%, but 1,000%. All right, so I agree with you completely. But let me ask you this, because polls now are showing that Trump on inflation is underwater. On the economy, he's underwater. On tariffs, he's now underwater. So my question to you is, and I agree with you, once you have inflation, it takes a long time to stamp it out. So this is not going to be done in, 7, 8, 9 months. It takes a while. But is the economy now an albatross around Trump? And was that a key reason why the Democrats won so big last night? What's your take?
I think that it's more like it's going to take a while. It may take a year or two, and you may never fully get rid of the damage Biden did, but you can grow out of it over time. So if I were the Republicans, I'd wait till mid-year and say, look, we were working on this, and we have solutions. They just complain. And again, it's like what your wife said, that they're blaming Trump for what
they caused
did. Yeah, for what they caused. So I think if Republicans are smart about it and they make this point, and I hope you have a lot more influence than I do, use this point to say that it's going to take time, but now there are an enormous number of jobs coming. I mean, the whole country is being reindustrialized. Energy, is going to go down. Energy is pretty much the foundation of all the goods, not just transportation and electricity. It's all the manufactured goods. You need fossil fuels. So I think if they're patient and work this over time, they'll be able to recover.
Arthur,
but yes, they are blaming they're blaming Trump for what they did, and they're good at it.
Arthur, if you don't mind me asking, again, if I'm being too personal, please tell me. Are you calling me from, let's say, I don't know, upstate New York? Or, in other words, are you calling me from outside New York City, or are you calling me from within New York City?
The heart of Manhattan.
The heart of Manhattan, okay.
And as a Jewish man, I'm a little clammy, that I don't know if, there hasn't been that much enforcement like at Columbia, even with other Democrat politicians, so I'm nervous.
Well, you anticipated my question. Arthur, you're the lobster in the pot right now. What are your plans under a Mamdani, a Mayor Mamdani? Are you going to leave the city or are you going to stay? 1 minute, please, go. Tell it.
I'll have to think about it,
What are your friends telling you? Are they planning to stay or are they planning to leave? What's the vibe now among people who voted against Mamdani? Are all of you worried?
So we're worried. I haven't spoken to too many, but we're all worried. But I'm hoping that at least Stefanik will get. And remember that the governor can actually can the mayor. So God willing, she would straighten things out.
So the hope is survive the initial months of Mamdani, the initial blows, and then get Elise Stefanik in to win the governorship against Hochul, and then maybe Stefanik can step in and remove this clown.
That's one hope, but I could be wrong. She might not get in. You know what I mean? She's great. She reminds the biblical figure of Deborah in the Jewish history. It was a female leader of the Jewish people. She reminds me of her, but she may not get in. So
yeah, Arthur, look, my advice to you is if you can leave, leave. I can see the writing on the wall, especially for Jewish Americans under this Islamo-communist. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are jammed. Judy in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Judy, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call, Jeff.
My pleasure, Judy.
Yesterday, you had observed that we Republicans betray everybody at the drop of a hat. Maybe if they gave Curtis Sliwa 20 minutes on their morning show, which was why I had emailed you last month a few times to ask if you'd please interview Jeff Cohen, because how many people believe whatever election results are reported. A number of others, including very knowledgeable analysts with years and decades of experience in military intelligence and cybersecurity forensics, they have plenty of reasons to not trust the reported results about who really won New York City's election for mayor and local elections. And so I was hoping that if you could interview Jeff Cohen, a co-director of massaffairelection.org, then that would educate Kuhner country about all the reasons for question and concern, and to ask your audience to come out this next 2 weeks to sign our petitions and help us to collect more signatures to protect our elections.
Judy, let me ask you, if you don't mind, point blank, with all of these third world migrants that Biden allowed to flood into our country, and so many of them were then deliberately packed into New York and it was deliberate, and how many of them turned out big, I mean big, for Mamdani. Do you think that there was a lot of voter fraud in New York? In other words, whether you like him, love him or hate him, that Cuomo may have had the election stolen from him by Mamdani? Because you've got all of these illegals, all of these migrants, all of these, and I'm putting this in air quotes, refugees that Biden allowed in. They're not citizens, so they shouldn't have the right to vote. But they were there, and Mamdani went into all of those communities and all of those neighborhoods, and it appears a lot of them ended up voting for him. So do you think the election was stolen in New York? I'm just curious.
I think it's very possible, and we have only 2 weeks left to collect 75,000 signatures. And so if you could please interview Jeff Cohen, I will email you again his contact information.
Okay, Judy, I will be looking out for your email. So please email it to me, and we'll see what we can do. And thank you again for that call. I really appreciate it. Dan in Dartmouth. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
I just want to get right to it. I think we have to look at the causation of all of this response to, say, an American First type agenda. It comes back to mass psychosis and indoctrination. We have to look at the sources of indoctrination that has caused this nation, 30%, maybe 40% of it, to have extreme views on being an American. And these sources of indoctrination, they need to be taxed almost like a tariff, because at the end of the day, we the people pay for this. And we should not be subjected to a bailout. We need to go back to the sources of indoctrination that are responsible for this. And I'm talking about all those news agencies, CBS, ABC, NBC, and then CNN. Let's get them as well. And then on top of that, we got to go back to the universities. Columbia University, his father is a professor there teaching, communism and extreme levels of, say, how to manage, a government. If he has dreams of being Idi Amin, this is not good for America. All these universities, tax them to oblivion until they come around. Same thing with these news agencies. Same thing with indoctrination, Jeff. It's the only way that we're going to begin to dispel what's happening with mass psychosis in this country. And I think it needs to happen immediately.
Well,
and the other thing is that...
Go ahead, Dan, please.
Zoran is not somebody that's qualified even to be on the Democrat ticket. The Democrats need to be responsible for this as well, the DNC. So we got to go after the sources, Jeff.
I agree with you 1,000%. As I said, not 100, but 1,000, as I like to say. Not 100, but 1,000%. And look, Dan, this to me, I think, is one of the most frightening things, is to see all of these 20-somethings, even 30-somethings, who turned out for Mamdani, and these were huge numbers. 72 to 73% of people 18 to 49 voted for Mamdani. The numbers between 18 to 35, so basically Gen Z and millennials, was 80% for Mamdani. 80%. And you see them waving the hammer and sickle. You see them with their communist socialist slogans and their signs. I mean, you're looking at this and you're like, oh my God, these people are in the pipeline. And you can tell they've been indoctrinated, they've been brainwashed, and he's their guy. And he's promising them communism. When he tells them taxation isn't theft, capitalism is, and they're nodding their head up and down. When he tells them you are entitled to free health care, you're entitled to a job, you're entitled to $30 an hour, You're entitled to like cheap groceries, city-run grocery stores. You're entitled to ride, to ride the bus and the subway free, meaning others pay for it. And they're like, yeah. Houston, we have a problem because this is communism 101. So I'm with you, Dan. We're going to have to do a lot of work